Welcome to the Old Patrol HQ podcast, where the history, heritage, and legacy of the Border Patrol comes alive, with a few shenanigans along the way. I'm your host, Gil Maza, Class 313 San Diego Sector, still trying to live up to the brand. Today, we have a guest who needs no introduction, but is going to get one anyway. It is my distinct honor to welcome the Operational Commander and Sector Chief of the El Centro Sector, Gregory K. Bovino, Class 325, and a 30-year warhorse of the United States Border Patrol. Right now, he's the tip of the spear, the face, the voice, and the fulcrum of the Trump administration's nationwide push to restore immigration enforcement. Some call him a rogue enforcer. Others say he's just chasing clout on social media. A lot of us look at him and see a genuine patriot, a dyed-in-the-wool believer who still answers the call when his country dials. And then there's what he calls himself, a dinosaur, the last holdout still standing after 101 years of the U.S. Border Patrol's proud singular mission, protecting America's borders and enforcing her immigration laws. Rogue? Patriot? Relic? Or exactly the leader we need right now? Well, let's find out. Straight from the chief himself, exclusively here at Old Patrol HQ. Good morning, Chief, and welcome to Old Patrol HQ.
Oh, good morning, Gil. It's good to see you, and I'm glad to be here.
All right. I hope you and your family had a great Thanksgiving, and I'm hoping that your team maybe got a good break, a Thanksgiving break as well.
Any Thanksgiving spent with friends or family is a good Thanksgiving, and I'll tell you what, I think we've loaded up on enough calories that we're going to need to expend those calories catching illegal aliens coming up here in the near term.
Oh, amen to that. Amen to that. Well, I'm hoping that we can give everybody the best Black Friday deal they ever had.
Well, I think this is the first Black Friday, Gil, I've ever done a podcast, probably the first podcast I've ever done. And okay. Let's give them a good Black Friday then.
Sounds good to me. Well, do you remember that back a couple of years ago that we didn't hit it off too well?
Well, Gil, yeah, that's been a few years ago. I think that's been about 3 years ago. But yeah, I think that you're a Type A personality. I'm a Type A personality. Most Border Patrol agents are a Type A personality. So those things happen from time to time. But I think us Type A's and us Old Patrol types always come together in the end. So I think that's what happened. We kind of got to know each other and came together, and here we are.
Well, that is exactly what happened, because back in those days, Chief, my trigger was saying that the border was closed. And while everybody from the Auto Pen administration down to even Raul Ortiz saying that the border was closed, when I heard you say it from El Centro, I said, hey, I gotta put this guy out there, man. So I'm out there talking trash. And one of your people did get a hold of me and said, hey, yeah, a lot of this crap is happening across the country, but Chief Bovino is locking down this sector. And so what were you doing in those days that was different during the Auto Pen Biden administration that was getting you in trouble with all the right people?
That's a good way to put that, Gil. Well, yeah, a lot of things were happening. And first and foremost, I always have to give the credit to those line agents. Those line agents and supervisory staff here in the El Centro sector, it was they that came up with a way to give consequences to those that came across the border. If you remember, we had whether it was a commissioner or most especially a secretary that wanted wide open borders and gave wide open borders. You call it the Auto Pen administration. Well put there, Gil. They wanted a wide open border, but us being patriots, us being part of the Mean Green team, we're not going to let that happen. Not here in the El Centro sector. We always called it the premier sector in the U.S. Border Patrol. Yeah. So we didn't want that to happen. So we developed a strategy. And again, that was with those line agents, those old patrol types that said, wait, there's a different way to do this. And we listened to what they had to say. We put together a strategy, and that did include some of our partners on the South side. Mm-hmm. And Gil, it started really during COVID. We talked to our partners on the South side. We didn't want those infected zombies coming across the border by the thousands here into the Imperial Valley. So we talked with our partners there, whether it was Mexicali Police Department, the Federales, as well as our local law enforcement here in the Imperial Valley. We came together, put a strategy together, and the Mexicans actually adhered to their portion of the strategy. We called it our border, and we did the same. And what happened in places like Tijuana or Ciudad Juarez or some of those other areas did not happen here, because we were in lockstep together to control that border in COVID. And then, Gil, after COVID, during that auto pen administration, when there were millions coming across the border, we enacted those same policies with our Mexican partners and with what we could do on this side to give the illegal aliens consequences. And it pretty much stopped it, put the border crossers at a standstill here in the El Centro sector. And, it's kind of hard to get the word out. I think a lot of people didn't believe us as to what we were doing, or it was kind of hard to see because, we are out in the middle of nowhere. So you probably didn't see it. A lot of other people didn't see it, but the agents did. Yeah. And as you know, Gil, and you're a very big proponent of this, our agents are our most precious resource. And like you say, apparently one of our agents reached out to you and said, hey, there's something else being done by the agents in El Centro sector. And it just went from there. That's sort of how everything started coming about, whether it's the interior enforcement operations that we're doing now or taking a look at true border security. It started there over those past 5 years. A very interesting turn of events there during that auto pen administration.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is that, there's one thing to say it, but man, you paid the consequences for that as well. I mean, you tried to testify, you got in trouble, you tried to get fired, they tried to retire you. And I don't know if a lot of people know that, or I'm not supposed to say that, but that was the truth of it. And you were getting blasted from the top brass and resisted on all sides. And that's when I knew you were the kind of chief, right, that everybody says you are. Because, man, when I start talking to somebody or start talking about somebody, I find out real quick from the rank and file across the country who someone is. And man, Chief, your reputation from the beginning of your career till now has been pretty much spotless. And the times it hasn't, I want to talk about those. But looking back, right, it feels like your entire career has kind of led you to this exact same moment, right? To the role you have right now with the Trump administration. So give us a brief synopsis of your career path and kind of what inspired you to get into the patrol in the first place.
Oh, wow. It's a lot there, Gil, a lot there. But, just joining the Border Patrol, certainly had that in mind for many years before joining the patrol. As you know, the folks like the Jeff Miltons, the Colonel Askins, Bill Jordans, all those old patrol folks, they were very prolific in what they did in terms of literature. And literature certainly feeds the mind. And as a young child, I would oftentimes read what they had to write. And some of the stories they wrote about the border were absolutely fabulous. I mean, you talk about feeding a young mind, Gil. Jeff Milton, as you know, that I know he's one of your somebody you talk about quite a bit. Whether it's Milton or Jordan or any of them, they had some really interesting things to say about the border, and it sort of stuck in my mind. And then also had a long lost uncle there from back in North Carolina that somehow became a Hollywood producer, and he produced that movie called The Border with Jack Nicholson. Now, I never really knew that uncle. It was, like I said, a long lost uncle, but the parents actually took me to see that movie. And Gil, anytime Hollywood doesn't like something, especially in terms of the U.S. Border Patrol, then you ought to probably pay attention, because that probably means the opposite's happening. Exactly. So I took what had been written in literature and then juxtaposed that against the movie. And I thought, you know what, that Border Patrol, that Mean Green team, that Mean Green machine, that might be something worth exploring. So as I got older, I explored it, became a Border Patrol agent. And, Gil, one of the interesting things is all those stories that were written by the Jordans and the Askins and the Miltons and many others, it was one of the few times in my life that I can actually say that came true. That it's really like that.
Yeah.
That. Yeah, go ahead.
I said it's like the wild, wild west out there. And I got to experience that at the end because I think we actually came in the same year, right? 1996.
Absolutely, yes. And you know that from being in San Diego sector, and I believe you detailed out here to El Centro, definitely the Wild West, something that you just can't make that kind of stuff up until you actually see it happening with your own eyes. So you saw that, and we probably worked together during those years, and I just didn't know it.
Yeah, well, you were probably working, and I was probably passed out in the truck somewhere on our necks.
I don't know about that, but it was a good time. So you ask what prepares us for what happens now?
Well, no, basically what I want to talk about. Well, first of all, I was asked to mention. I was told that you did some really legendary work at Zone One. Apparently, you did some great work there in the beginning of your career.
Oh, I had the fantastic opportunity to do that work. That Zone 1 is the Jacumba Mountain Wilderness area. It's that mountainous area between San Diego and El Centro, a really rugged place. So, I was given the opportunity to lead the Mountain Disrupt unit there. And in doing that, we decided to take things a bit differently there with Mountain Disrupt. Instead of working it from the highway, let's get back into the mountains and the canyons as far back as we possibly can, and then out guerrilla the gorilla, so to speak. We've often heard in our career that oftentimes there would be some guides or some polleros or things like that were just too good to be caught. Can't catch them, and they're really a rough bunch and that kind of stuff. Well, that didn't sit right with me, nor some of the other Border Patrol agents, Jaime Rios being a prime example here in the El Centro sector. So we decided to hit them in a different way. Let's hike back 3 hours into a canyon, and we'll take all of them out at one time and then prosecute the guides.
Yeah.
And in doing that, we made a real difference there in Zone 1. We took a lot of guides out of circulation to the point that those groups started getting lost in Zone 1. They were having problems trafficking those humans to the highway. And fast forward 25 years from now, Zone 1 is completely shut down right now here in the El Centro sector. So Zone 1 was shut down, but what that did is it gave us the ability to look at things a different way. Luckily, I was given a lot of freedom as to how to formulate that mission and how to prosecute that mission. So you take what happened in Zone 1, let's apply that in the interior now. Let's apply some of those lessons from 25, 30 years ago in Zone 1, and then apply those in places like Los Angeles, Chicago, Charlotte, and wherever else we're going to go, and really take it to the bad guys. And that's what it's all about, is how can we hit that center of gravity, that weakest point where we can do the most damage to the bad guys. And that's what I really learned in Zone 1. It was some great work. Some long hours and some hellacious stories. And Gil, I probably ought to wait maybe another 10 years to tell all those stories, but we'll have to do another podcast on Zone 1 activities.
As soon as you retire, man, we're gonna fill some podcasts with some of those stories for sure. But I'd like to start out by just talking about that interview that you did with the New York Times podcast with Natalie Kitroff and Hamed Ali Al-Aziz. One thing stood out at me in that interview is that a lot of people, including Washington, D.C., and the senators and the congressmen, they have no clue the fundamental difference between ICE and Border Patrol, right? First of all. So they keep implying that when Border Patrol agents check immigration status away from the immediate border, that somehow we're either doing ICE's job or overstepping our authority. And so would you mind, for the people that don't know, can you remind people where the legal authority for Border Patrol is to operate across the country, where that comes from, and how it's been a part of our legacy, Border Patrol legacy, for 101 years?
Gil, you hit the nail on the head there. That's part of our legacy. 101 years we've been doing the very thing that we're doing now in the interior for 101 years. So look at some of the big interior operations from many years ago. Eisenhower administration took millions out of the interior of the country, and this is merely more of that. we're continuing that legacy and that mission. So when we talk about ICE or Homeland Security investigations or Border Patrol, we operate with the same authorities. They think that different entities in DHS have different authorities. Not so with the immigration officers and the immigration agents. We have the same authorities and we operate under those same authorities. I'll give you a few of those authorities to help your viewers. Let's look at the INA, the Immigration and Nationality Act, specifically sections 287 and 235. 287 says that an immigration officer can question anyone, anywhere in the United States as to their ability to be or remain in the United States. An immigration officer, and Gil, you probably did this a whole lot there in San Diego. It's called a consensual encounter. I can question anyone, anywhere. And, I've done this even with there's reporters at the New York Times. I said, hey, what's your citizenship? That's part of 287. I can ask that question. I can ask anyone that question. It's not an illegal question. It's not something I shouldn't ask. It's part of being an immigration officer. We're trained in that from our earliest days at the academy through now. So that doesn't mean I can do that within 100 miles of the border or 25 miles of the border or near the border. That's anywhere in the United States. And Gil, you said 101 years in the legacy. That's part of the 101 years in the legacy is to how one of the ways that we operate.
That's right. And that's the thing, Chief, is that, we have been doing this for so long, but then it got to the point that for the last decade, or at least I remember at least out of my 25-year career, the first 5 years, I did go and pull people out of the Home Depot, the trolley station, the apartment complexes. We'd follow them, call it in, get the plates, get the information, and then follow them and then grab them. And then all of a sudden, this process started between 96 and 1996 and 2000, where little by little they started disciplining agents for actually going out and doing that. And the guy that actually taught me, one of my first journeymen, he kept getting more and more and more and more in trouble with the higher ups because he kept doing that. He called it playing baseball. He goes, we're going to go out into El Cajon City, and we're going to, if we strike out 3 times, then we go out to the field and work it. And the guy never struck out. The guy hit a home run every time he tried. He went up to bat. And so I actually got to learn from someone who was used to doing that kind of work. So that's nothing new to the patrol, and it's nothing new to America, except today, the left, the liberals, the Democrats, they want to make it sound like all of a sudden it's Nazi Germany all over again.
Exactly. And that's too bad. The way they portray something that's legal, ethical, and moral, something we've been doing for all these years as something different.
Yes.
And it's not. We were in jails, doing jail check. It was called BORCAP, and a lot of different things like that. A lot of interior enforcement and that type of thing. But I did notice, as you said, between 1996 and 2000, that started to go away, and I believe that was the Hillary Clinton administration that started that.
Yeah,
and it just went downhill from there, and we never really got that back until very recently. And it's nice to see that back because, Gil, we can make a difference. We are making a difference anywhere in the United States, whether it's a border area or anywhere else. And Gil, you may remember we did try an interior operation. I believe it was July the 29th, 2010 in Las Vegas, Nevada.
I was supposed to ask you about that.
Absolutely. That was called Operation Don't Let Them Ride. And that operation was set for about 3 days. It lasted 60 minutes. But the interesting thing is we caught more aliens than there were minutes in the operation. It was a very successful operation. I believe very successful. Yes, sir. Harry Reid called Hussein Obama and had that shut down immediately. And when you talk about the playing baseball and your journeyman and what you experienced, Gil, same thing in 2010. But we never forgot that. We never forgot the vast amount of criminals that we apprehended in 2010 on those bus checks in Las Vegas, and the pervasive problem even then that we saw. And a lot of that problem came in under Barack Hussein Obama as well as Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that more, but and I don't want to get too much because there's a lot I could say about that interview. But the other thing that caught me was that they framed the interview in pieces where they would actually set the tone. In other words, right, they would defend the Autopen administration's, open border, catastrophic open border policies, and then play you as if you were some kind of like Trump's extremist enforcer, and they might as well have been doing a documentary on a serial killer, as far as they were concerned, you know. But now look at us, Chief. We got two National Guardsmen that were murdered in cold blood. And are we beginning to see more and more every day the consequences of the last administration's catastrophic open border policies between the Biden auto pen and Alejandro Mayorkas?
We are. And that's something that I try to do my best to let the viewers and the American public know is those 4 years of open borders. And Gil, when you say open borders, it really was open borders. In talking to fellow chiefs, and you actually covered this very well over those years with what you do. But in talking to some of those chiefs for a period of years, 60, 70% of their borders were wide open in some of those sectors.
Yeah.
And we don't know what the hell came across. Yes. And don't have any idea what came across, but we're finding out what came across now. We're finding that out the hard way. And that, Gil, is why the U.S. Border Patrol, the Mean Green Team, is in those communities. It's to take out those bad people and bad things and to disrupt what was allowed to come into our country. And, quite frankly, it's just reprehensible to think what happened over those past 4 years. I lived it. You lived it. A lot of agents lived it. And that was a very tough pill to swallow. But I'll tell you what, we're getting some back now. We're going to get this ship righted. We're going to get everything back on the rails. And we're going to remove what came across those borders. And, you mentioned the National Guardsmen there, God bless them and their families. That's another tough pill. That should never have happened. Should never have happened. You know that. Agreed. I know that. And then Gil, look at the illegal alien that shot at Border Patrol agents in Little Village in Chicago. Just a few weeks ago. Same thing. Now he wasn't able to successfully carry out that deadly attack, but that illegal alien wanted to. That is an illegal alien that feels emboldened enough in broad daylight to take a semi-automatic weapon and shoot directly at Border Patrol agents. We've definitely got a problem in the country.
Absolutely. And that's, Chief, what's it going to take? I mean, you have shown you've caught pedophiles, child molesters, traffickers, drug dealers, murderers, right? All these kind of people. We've seen the carnage of illegal aliens who have murdered American citizens or beat them or robbed them and everything else. What's it going to take for Americans to turn around and say, okay, this needs to happen. This needs to be done? Because that's exactly what you're going out to do. Now, there's some collateral stuff going on, and we'll discuss that, the legality of that. But what's it going to take for Americans to realize that, number one, the actions of the Autopen administration along with Mayorkas were treason, full-on, full-blown treason, because they just disregarded and ignored all the laws. Number two, Alejandro Mayorkas, I mean, that guy should be in prison right now. In prison. But thirdly, that we still have, like you said, I remember the first time I got a message saying that the entire Del Rio sector is closed. And I'm 25 years in the Border Patrol. I never heard of that. How do you close an entire border just to process illegals by the thousands and then release them by the thousands, which is unprecedented? Unprecedented, I don't know what the answer is to that, but I'll let you speak to it.
Yeah, Gil, a few things there. What do you say to that? Well, the Border Patrol agents were saying things that just fell on deaf ears. Yes. Those 300,000 missing children that President Trump, Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, Chief Banks, and the rest talk about, we talked about or tried to talk about that over those 4 years.
Yeah.
Gil, there was one specific case that is absolutely terrible, but it encapsulates what really happened there. And that was one of the drugged children that came across the border right here in El Centro sector. Here was a child that was drugged. I believe that the child was approximately 3 years old. It was a male,
Yes.
was drugged. And we managed to wake the kid up after doing a sternum rub, which, as you know, is a medical procedure to help wake up someone that has drugs. Woke the child up and realized the child had non-surgical sutures in his abdomen. Non-surgical sutures
No.
in the abdomen of this child that had just been trafficked across the border. The smugglers didn't know where the child was going. I believe they said New York State, but they were headed towards Los Angeles. That's not New York State.
Right.
So God knows what would have happened to that child had Border Patrol agents not, figured out, that there was a smuggling event. But Gil, why was that never talked about during that last administration, or the hundreds of thousands of others?
Oh yeah, so much that was unreported. Now, the Trump administration put together a team, an impressive team, right, for DHS CBP. You have Tom Homan as border czar. Kristi Noem has done an excellent job as DHS secretary, I believe. Todd Lyons, but there's another character in there that's like, one, it doesn't look quite like the others, and that's Chief Gregory Bovino. How did, I saw a viral meme circulating on social media just, of a dream team, right? It's like a border crisis movie, a high stakes action movie, but there you are on the top four of the lineup: Trump, Noem, Lyons, Bovino. Now, here's what baffles the hell out of me, Chief. Out of 20 sectors in the Border Patrol nationwide, how did the chief of a basically low profile sector, 70 miles along the border, right? How does you bypassed, it seems like you bypassed the entire chain of command, and walk us through how a scrappy SOB out of El Centro becomes the fourth man in this blockbuster movie of Donald Trump's immigration enforcement.
Oh, Gil, it baffles me too. But, again, I would say that it's the team here in El Centro. Remember, that team controlled this border for 4 years during the Otto Penn administration. So they did a good job there. What that did is it allowed us to actually go into the interior in a place called Bakersfield, California.
I remember those.
And we went into Bakersfield. That was under the Otto Penn administration, as you talk about, and that was Operation Return to Sender. And that was the proof test of things to come. But that wasn't meant for all this to happen, as you say. But I think that it may have woken some people up as to what could be done and how to go about it. So it just happened that it was the El Centro sector, because we had done a very good job, because this command staff here and these agents did a great job in providing this consequences, shut the border down. So then we went into the interior where we saw transnational criminal organizations, bad people and bad things operating. We went right into that city and hit it. And now you may have heard that I went in there rogue and didn't have permission and all this stuff. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. That was an operations order signed by that administration at headquarters. That was a different administration, or a different leadership team than was there now, but it was definitely signed off on, and very proud of that fact that was signed off on. Maybe they didn't know what they were signing. I don't know. But
I get the feeling that's what happened this time as well.
Maybe not. So that morphed from Bakersfield to, hey, come up to Los Angeles and see what you think here for a few days. And I'll tell you what, when you let the Mean Green team in, along with those allied law enforcement partners, no looking back, because we know how to do one thing very well, and that's take it to bad people and bad things, illegal aliens. And otherwise, we did it. Los Angeles shut entire illegal alien economies down in Los Angeles. Entire economies that were predicated on illegal aliens were shut down. They're still shut down now, as they should be.
Yes.
And I think people thought, well, wait a second, that's kind of working pretty good. Let's try that in some other places.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. Well,
I
Chief,
think that's how that happened.
first of all, one of the things I love about you is the fact that you keep reminding us that it's the rank and file, it's that salt of the earth Border Patrol agent that's out there that loves America, loves their family, loves everybody else's families, because that's what we're out there protecting everybody from things. If they understood what comes across that border in the middle of the night, they couldn't sleep. But you know what? I feel like we've said mean green for a lot of years, that maybe it began to lose its power a little bit. But yeah, hot damn, Chief, you're putting testosterone back into that mean green like nobody's business. You and your, what I like to call, your cowboys and swashbucklers.
Yeah, you do a good job of describing them. But Gil, it almost brings a tear to my eye, though, in a more serious tone, to watch the
Yeah,
rank and file, those line agents out there in, whether it's the non-permissive environment on the border, as you mentioned,
yeah.
or that tough environment in downtown Los Angeles, downtown Chicago, Charlotte, and other places, and watch them with that cool, calculated professionalism, conducting a mission that is a
Holy
very
crap.
tough mission. And
Oh, we're
I'm
gonna talk
amazed
about how tough it is.
Yeah, I'm amazed. We'll go back to that shooting, the illegal alien there in Little Village that started popping off rounds directly at Border Patrol agents. I was in Little Village that day, and I was quite amazed at the way the Border Patrol agents reacted to that. It's because of what as you say, they see a lot of very difficult and tough things out on the border. And that translates very well to that urban environment. I know there's some people out there like there was a commissioner called Kurlikowski. I called him Trade and Travel Kurlikowski. He wasn't worth a damn, but that is now saying things that we don't belong in an urban environment. Well, nothing could be further from the truth.
Exactly. You were created for that urban environment.
Created for it. I watched those agents dealing with those gunshots the other day, and I was amazed at the calmness. They were actually taking people into custody while being shot at, while putting handcuffs on people, and it's like they didn't bat an eye. There was no thinking, there was no screaming in the radio, nothing but, hey, we got some rounds coming in. And I thought, am I hearing this correctly?
Yeah.
I was getting excited, and our line agents out there, along with SOG, SOG's out there, another cool bunch of professionals, and quite amazing to me. And at that moment, I knew we've got the right force and the right people for that mission. And I'm very proud of them. And I know the rest of the Border Patrol leadership, I was talking to Chief Banks about that. He's very proud of them as well. We couldn't have a better, more professional, measured force to do what we're doing now anywhere in the United States.
Amen to that, Chief. Amen. Well, we both know that this immigration crisis didn't start with the Otto Penn administration, right? But let's be real. They inflicted more damage on the immigration system in our country than any presidency in the history of this country. I call it the greatest and deadliest taxpayer-funded illegal alien invasion and border security breach America has ever seen. I still don't think we fully grasp just how much our nation is compromised. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yes, thousands of Americans have been raped, maimed, and killed by those that came across. And Gil, very quickly, another way to look at that is Charlotte, North Carolina. That was Operation Charlotte's Web. We were going to Charlotte for a few days. It even surprised us what we actually saw on the ground in Charlotte. As you said, the amount of aggravated felons, gang members walking the streets with impunity right in the middle of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Pretty as you please.
We don't fully grasp, as you say, what's happening. There's a prime example of an area that surprised even us.
Wow. Well, you know what? The intensity of enforcement that you're rolling out right now has stunned the entire country. There's no doubt. Even diehard Trump supporters, right, who begged for mass deportations, they're a bit shell-shocked at what they're seeing you do out there in the field with your guys. And again, I don't think most people really understood the extent of the problem so much, right? So what are your core mission and marching orders from the top? What mandate have you been given to go when you go out into the field?
Sure, Gil. When we go out into the field and we go into these cities, these towns, these regions, anywhere we go, the core mission there is we're working for Mom and Pa America, the taxpayer. We work for the taxpayer. We have their backs. I think that nobody had their backs, especially over the past 4 years, and then for many years before that. But President Trump, President Trump and Secretary Noem and the others, they do have their backs. So I think first and foremost, we work hard for the taxpayer to make this community safe. And then, Gil, every city is now a border city. I think
Amen.
That's something else that bears mentioning here, because, the border is no longer on the border now with what we're seeing in anywhere we go. Every city's a border city, and it's got the same problems that a border would, whether it's transnational criminal organizations smuggling fentanyl. I mean, look at what the president's doing, blowing those boats out of the water off the coast of Venezuela.
Yeah,
that's because that goes into the towns and cities here in the interior. They're now border cities. So because they're border cities, that is another reason why we're there. And then another marching order, obviously, is to take as many bad people and bad things out of the interior of the country. And then finally, and this is very important for some of your viewers and some of those good retired Border Patrol agents and anyone else that happens to watch this, is there's a strategy here. This is not willy-nilly. This is not anything else but a well thought out, prudent and thoughtful strategy here, Gil. And that is self-deportations, CBP home app. That CBP home app was put into place for a reason.
That was brilliant, by the way. A brilliant reversal of my Alejandro Mayorka's crowning achievement to make a smuggling app that actually rivals the cartels.
Absolutely. And then when we talk about shutting those illegal alien-based economies down, just like we did in Charlotte, Los Angeles, Chicago, what happens when they get shut down long enough, Gil? Well, you know what? Maybe it's time that several million more, and there's already been 2 million that have self-deported, that have left the country. Several million more now have an option to do it the right way before it's too late.
Amen.
And so there's something else that when we talk marching orders and things that we are going to do and that we're doing that right now. And the CBP home app gets ever more important every day. And I think a lot of illegal aliens are starting to see that, and they're starting to use that. Tens of thousands actually are now. I talked to the secretary there a couple of weeks back. That's starting to take off. And I think that that's going to be a very important part of our strategy. It will continue to be an important part of our strategy coming up.
Excellent, Chief. Okay, so now we're going to get a little spicy here, Chief. One of the things that I have noticed, and others have noticed as well, is that it seemed like, at least in the beginning, CBP Commissioner Rodney Scott and Border Patrol Chief Michael Banks were not on board, or were conspicuously absent. Because here's my case real quick. You're obviously a soldier. You're a fighter, right? You like to be in the mix. There's not many guys like you. Even in the Border Patrol, even when I was in it, we had guys like you, and we had the rest of us. Okay, we were on the ground, we were pounders and everything else like that. But we had that one guy who was the freaking dude, right? You hated that guy going back to the station because the dude would catch traffic going back to the station, and now we're stuck at the station where Morgan. That was you, right? Very annoying. But that's the thing. So how come you're not out there taking care of the troops, taking care of your guys, taking care of business? And why isn't Chief Scott or Commissioner Scott and Chief Banks running interference with you, with all these dipshit liberal governors and mayors that are out there just calling you out and just, stirring the pot and riling people up? How come you're dealing, you're like dealing with them and the field at the same time? So it's just what it seems like to me.
Sure. Well, that's a good question, and you certainly do like to get spicy, Gil. Well done. But no, I think there's a few things there that bear mentioning here. Is remember, any chief in the U.S. Border Patrol, any chief is expected to be out in front of the camera, to engage with
Yes.
the media, engage with people like you, asking tough questions like this. It's just, Gil, one thing that has happened over the past 4 years in the auto pen administration is we were silenced to the
Yes.
point that a lot of these people were worried about their jobs, their livelihoods. They were threatened with livelihoods. I mean, there was one chief in a neighboring sector who was put on a performance improvement plan. A lot of the rank and file and a lot of other people might not know that, and was put on a performance improvement plan for trying to do the right thing. And so I think that it takes a little bit of catch up for everyone to come together to do things like what you're talking about. And let's be transparent, engage the media and that type of thing. It just so happened, Gil, that, I had been practically fired. So I was already well aware of kind of what it took and was willing to step up and do that. But I will say that Chief Banks and I talk quite often, and Chief Banks is one of our greatest proponents now. It's just, remember, Chief Banks also has 19,000, and I can't remember what the number is now, 19,600 other Border Patrol agents to worry about, as well as infrastructure, a lot of other things to worry about, in addition to helping fight, those governors, mayors, and people like that. So he gives us a whole lot of support, and he's doing a fantastic job. He actually showed up there in Chicago, if you remember.
I saw that.
I think that was first day or two of our operation. You'll see Chief Banks on other operations as well. But remember, his bandwidth is pretty tight because he's got a lot of different things to worry about. So here's the other thing, Gil, that's pretty important is, I think that sometimes you need a focal point that can take heat rounds. I'll just to put it in your spicy terms, is someone going to have to take the heat rounds, Gil. Do we want Border Patrol agents taking a heat round? Do we want Border Patrol agents being called a Nazi or a jackbooted thug?
No.
Do we want Border Patrol agents being called liars by extremist judges who legislate from the bench? No, that's not the way to do business. That is not the way to do business. Hey, those old patrol folks like Jeff Milton, Bill Jordan, and Colonel Askins would have none of that bullshit. Now, would they?
Exactly.
Absolutely not. And you wouldn't have any of it. So, you know what? It's one of life's greatest honors to take a heat round for the rank and file and for that leadership staff here so they can operate. They need to operate free and clear of that type of thing, of that type of vile vitriol and rhetoric by people that don't know, people that have never worked that line on midnight shift with narco traffickers trying to kill them like you have and the rest of them. So you know what? It's fine with me. You know what? If you think you're going to rattle me by calling me a liar or lying about calling me a liar or calling me whatever you want to call me, you got another thing coming.
Yeah, we can see that because you do seem to have a thick skin about these things. Now, being as how Commissioner Scott is your chain of command, do you meet often with him to talk strategy, to work these things out, how the resources from the field, things like that, and what is he doing to further your efforts in these operations? Sure.
And remember, I'm one of Chief Banks's Border Patrol chiefs. So when we talk about the chain of command, I do talk a lot more with Chief Banks than I would Commissioner Scott. He's got his own worries and his own things, and I tend not to get into his business and tell him how to do things. But so Banks and I are definitely tight. And then I certainly do talk with some of the other folks on the DHS side as well to ensure that these operations are national in scope and doing the right thing that we need to do. So there's a lot of different moving parts here for this question, and I think we're doing a good job. And pieces are going to fall and do fall into that puzzle the way they need to. And
we have to remember that, there's only been a couple of months. The work you guys have accomplished in only a few months is pretty damn great. Now let me ask you this question then. Are there people in DHS CBP or USBP leadership that aren't on board with your approach to this immigration enforcement? And if there are, which I already know there are, Chief, so I'm not really asking, are they actively trying to, become obstacles, put obstacles in front of this operation?
Sure. I think that anytime you have a new type of an operation, a dynamic operation like this, that there'll be some folks that are a bit confused there in the beginning. Mm-hmm. But as far as challenging me directly, absolutely not. I haven't seen it directly to my face, because that wouldn't probably work out too well for
I don't even think Trump would address you directly, Chief.
Oh, absolutely. Now he would, Secretary Nome, but that's the dream team, though. And when they do address us, and I'll tell you one thing, it's really nice when President Trump calls the entire team and talks to your line agents, or Vice President Vance comes down and talks to those line agents. They do that. Never seen that before.
No,
it's funny.
That's awesome.
See that. Yeah, I didn't see that there with at least 3 of those past administrations that I worked for ever once. But you do see that now. So we're getting the support. And then as far as anyone that might or might not be on board, I've certainly got a cell phone. Right here's my cell phone. There's my government cell phone. If somebody doesn't like it, they feel free to call me, and we have a talk. And they can tell me their opinion, however wrong it might be, and I'll let them know my opinion, and maybe we'll come to some conclusion. But we're in this for Ma and Pa America. We're doing the right thing, and we're going to do the right thing, and will not be deterred by anyone to not do that right thing. So if your viewers or anyone else thinks that we'll be deterred, absolutely not. We're not deterred for anything. And, people can disagree. People can have alternative opinions and things like that. But at the end of the day, even if they're wrong, but at the end of the day, we're going to do the right thing. And we work for that taxpayer. Our most precious resource, those Border Patrol agents and ICE agents, now law enforcement, work for the taxpayer. And I believe the mandate was given. Yep. And the mandate was given, and we're going to march to that mandate, and we're going to accomplish the mission. And we are well on our way to accomplishing it. Just a couple of months in, like you say, just think what's going to happen as we gain more experience, and and become more operationally viable. I think a lot more people will see the viability of these operations, and that united front will even be stronger than it is now.
This concludes part 1 of my epic 3-part interview with Chief Gregory Bovino. My immediate takeaway: Chief Bovino is a dyed-in-the-wool patriot who lives and breathes the original mission of the United States Border Patrol, protecting America and keeping her secure from all enemies, foreign and domestic, no matter how fiercely half the country pushes to import unvetted foreigners from every corner of the globe. Stay tuned. In the next 2 parts, we'll dive deep into how Chief Bovino's no-nonsense approach to immigration enforcement has stunned the nation and even caught many inside DHS, CBP, and the Border Patrol itself completely off guard. Catch the full interview and follow along on all platforms at Old Patrol HQ. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel and Substack. It's free. Honor first, honor always, or no honor at all.